working with them, we added 3 or 4 more farms that happen to be their neighbors. And they all kind of work together on raising ducks for us. So now we get about 100 a week from the 40 that we used to do. And so because of that, when we were able to start doing tableside presentations again, we were selling so many that what happened was the 3rd table in a row was waiting almost an hour for them. And you know, people were getting unhappy with that. It wasn't efficient for the kitchen. So instead, we do the majority of them in the back because we can just kind of bang it out real quick to order. And then a couple times a night, we'll do it up here and give everyone a chance to actually see what's going on if they want to. Some people just don't care, so, you know. All right, so I'm gonna send these back. They're gonna finish cooking them. So, a couple things about the duck press and this duck specifically. The whole point of this course is to showcase how fresh the duck is. It's one of those courses that the duck itself is so important on how it's killed, how it's cooled after being killed, in the sense that if it's water chilled, it absorbs water, like 15% weight. And so you don't get the right juice out of it when you press. And it has to be very fresh. If it's air dried for too long, you lose all the moisture because you're drying out the duck. Traditionally, this would be done with a wild bird, and it would have all of the innards in it, all of the blood, everything else. Unfortunately, garlic down. Ours are not that, so we get the heart, liver, and lungs with the duck. After we roast it, we put those back inside. And that allows us to get the juice that we need. You'll notice how rare the duck is. That's intentional. If the duck were more cooked, then you'd end up with a sauce that was ultimately overcooked. So when we press it, we want the duck to be very bloody to get as much of that liquid as possible. And then we finish cooking that in the sauce. I sent the breast back to the kitchen. There's really kind of 2 methods of thought with the continued cooking of it. You either finish cooking in the kitchen the way we do, or restaurants like Tour d'Argent in Paris, they'll finish cooking it slice by slice in the sauce. We found recipes for both, but you know, for consistency purposes, it made sense to just send it back to the kitchen. Notice the jigsaw puzzle to get the duck in here. Wild birds, much smaller. This being a farm-raised bird is bigger, so you just kind of have to cut it up to get it all in there. The only part that doesn't go in are the wings. It's not that we don't use the wings, it's that they don't fit. So we have constant stock going in back. All the bones that we press go into that stock as well as the wings, so nothing gets wasted. Clean up and then we'll start pressing. Alright, fun. Vinny, we've had press before, first time?
We've had it before.
So the only, I guess, main difference between this and one that you would get at, like Tour d'Argent, is the fact that this is not this is a blood duck. So we had ways to kind of compensate for that depth of flavor because we're not just pressing all of the blood and innards out. So when we build the sauce, we do a bit more of a reduction. Early recipes like the Escoffier recipe will just call for a sprinkle of cognac and a sprinkle of red wine inside of the press. In our case, to fortify, we actually do a reduction of cognac followed by a reduction of red wine. So we started with toasting black peppercorn.
Yeah, so you get a little workout now.
Yeah, you know, in a perfect world, we'd have this thing bolted down and it wouldn't, you know, wouldn't try to run off the cutting board, but this makes it more fun. Also, because it's an antique, blood kind of comes from everywhere sometimes. You know, it's just like coming off the back, the front. So, never a dull moment with me. I think the beauty of this course, one of the reasons we really fell in love with it, you know, most courses in restaurants, it's supposed to be like the first bite is as good as the last bite, or it's exactly the same as the last bite. This is a course that will not be the same start to finish. And that's sort of by design. That's kind of why you have to do it all anew. You can't fake it. Like if you don't have a press, you can't do it. And the sauce itself is a very short life. If you think about like scrambled eggs, right? If you have perfect scrambled eggs, they're creamy, they're a little runny, and you let them sit for 5 minutes, they'll overcook. Once you apply the heat, the proteins coagulate, and from that point, the only way to stop it from cooking more is to cool it off. Same is true with this sauce. So as soon as you get it, it'll be a little thin. As it sits, it'll thicken. Eventually, it will break. That's what happens with this sauce. And we could cheat it and add gums or stabilizers or something like that, but that's not really the nature of the course. And so with that, I think, you know, it's one of those exciting things in that this is actually a very personal course for everyone. You get your own. Yours is different. Yours is different. Because everyone has their own bird. And the only thing that we do to try to help make it consistent is we'll taste the sauce if we need to. We'll add a little more duck fat back into it. Some birds are fattier than others, so you know we want to make sure that end is the same. So the other thing you'll notice when you get the course, we serve this entire course all at once. So you get the breast and the sauce, and also the 2 legs as separate parts. We thought about initially serving as a coursed out dish, but at the time this was served consistently, everything was served, you know, as banquet style. Everything kind of came out all at once. And so with this, we wanted to adhere to that philosophy. All right, so about there, this reduction is almost done. Hey, look back there, Joe.
Can you go too far and like over extractive?
No, eventually hit a point where just nothing comes out. So I can keep working. I can keep working it up and down. It'll stop for 2 reasons. One, everything cools down too much and the fat coagulates. Otherwise, there's nothing left to come out of it. So, and eventually the chunks of liver and stuff will clog up holes, and then it blocks everything away. So that's kind of like if you don't put it in the right spots, weird things happen too. Like you clog the front, everything pours out the back. At least I haven't been strong enough to overdo it. And maybe it's possible. And we also, with this recipe for one, we shoot for about half of the cup. So it ends up being about 100 grams of liquid. And so at that, even if we could get more, we stop there because it broke the balance of the sauce. All right, so the reduction's there. We're gonna add some duck jus. Bring this up to a boil. And then from this point, the key to the sauce is really in the temperature. If you get it too hot, it overcooks. Obviously, if it's not hot enough, it'll coagulate. And so all we're really looking to do is basically cook the sauce to medium rare. You notice how red it is? It's a little less than rare at this point. So as soon as this comes to a full boil, I'll kill the heat, and then we'll just emulsify that in. I mentioned the legs were not attached to the duck when we first started. The reason for that is we cooked those for about 8 hours. We cooked those full feet. We found a better result. Some of the older recipes call for them to just be served on the side, served as a secondary course, but we were never happy with what we got. You basically just have to hammer them to get to cook, and it's just not desirable. So when you guys get the duck, you'll see that they're in multiple. Alright, so sauce is up. Burner's doing the best it can. Heat. And the key is to add everything at the same time to cool it rapidly. So it doesn't curdle. And that's it. So sauce is made, so we'll test it back there, and then your sauce will come up to you. This one's yours.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys.